Hi, Louisa. Hi, Anne-Marie, Batul, uh, Adrian, right? Did I say your name correctly?
Yes, that's me.
Yes, and yes, and Cheryl.
Okay, so I think we can begin.
Okay,
Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm the curatorial assistant here at Risk. And thank you all for joining us today. So before we begin, we would like to know that this session is being recorded as part of our exhibition archive and maybe as well published on our YouTube channels. So, welcome to our first edition of Meet the Artist. This series offers a unique opportunity to hear directly from the artists featured in the exhibition of Under the Same Sky, not only about their works on display, but also about the ideas, the process, and the personal experiences that shape their practice. So, today we are very much delighted to be joined by Tala, who will share insights into her artistic journey, selected works, and the way in which her experiences across different culture and geographical contexts has have informed her creative approach. So thank you all for being here, and please join me in welcoming Tala. So, yes, handing it
thank you,
over to
Sarah.
you.
Thank you, Sarah. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you again for joining this afternoon. I know it's in the middle of the week, and many people have a busy schedule, so I really appreciate your time. I am Tala Atrouni. I'm actually Tala Hamoud Atrouni. So my maiden name is Hamoud, and basically I've been practicing art for the past 20, I would say 25 years. And it all started actually way earlier. As a child, I used to be fascinated by how my dad, had these skills and talent of calligraphy and writing and restoring artwork, in addition to his publishing work and graphic design and publishing books and all of that. So being the middle child and kind of like the spoiled one, I was kind of like accompanying my dad all of the time, and he had a very big impact on my practice today. I studied visual arts with a minor in graphic design or back then it was called advertising at the American Lebanese University in Lebanon, and I graduated in 1998. And then immediately after, I relocated to San Francisco, where I was married to my husband, and I worked in the publishing field in the .com industry, and this is where I learned more about like coding and tech and all of that. And at you know after some while in like 2003, I decided to go and complete my master's in fine arts, and I attended to the American sorry, Academy of Art University in San Francisco, and I majored in illustration. The reason why I did illustration was part of it challenging myself. I came from a very abstract, non structural background at LAU, and I wanted to kind of gain all of the experience of learning more about structure, about figurative drawing, painting, and go back to the classics. And then from there, I wanted to move forward. And I completed my MFA in 2005, and then worked a little bit in the tech industry. And I'm currently a professor or assistant professor at Zayed University, with teaching students in both visual arts, foundation, and graphic design. And I do actively practice my passion, which is, arts in general. Today, I will go through my work, and feel free to interrupt me anytime. I will go through my different series, and I will just give you a heads up, as they say. I do multiple things at the same time, and this is how my brain functions. And I enjoy them all, and I try my best to keep practicing all of what I do together. Of course, sometimes I go through periods where I'm focusing more on one walk or one style more than the other. But none of the less, they are all mine. After 25 years, it's really hard to stick to one thing. So I'm gonna go just like, go through my CV really quickly. If you have any questions, let me know. It's very diverse. And then I think I've been teaching for about 8 years overall, and working, yeah, about a bit less. And then these are my exhibitions. I didn't include my 2016, 26, sorry, exhibitions yet. I need to update that. I have also been awarded 2 awards for printmaking, and also at my university for my undergraduate studies, and was shortlisted for the art circle. My artwork, so basically, as you can see, I have variety of a lot of styles. I'm gonna start with the very, very early ones that brought me back to my practice. So at some point, I kind of like got busy with life and with my kids, and then I kind of like learned after a hardship that a person should do what they love. That is what's like, something that kind of like taught me and brought me back. And that was in 2012 when I did my comeback exhibition at the French Cultural Center in Oman, in Muscat, where I think almost sold all my paintings on that day. And basically, it was after a personal hardship that I went through, and I realized that I really need to just follow my passion, and that's where the series Luscious kind of came to birth, I would say. And I have, kind of like tried to express um, uh, myself and my feelings and my grief and my happiness through color. And I wanted to really focus on how a pigment or a color can uh, communicate a thought without actually being figurative, in some sort of like abstraction, just an expression, an organic way of like placing it on the canvas and kind of having this conversation on its own. And these kind of thoughts were kind of free for everyone to interpret to their own, like kind of think about that painting, whether it made them feel happy or sad or upset, or dive deep into the textures in whichever way they wanted. So I wanted the viewer to kind of feel that energy that color could give us into our lives, and that painting wanted to kind of like communicate. And it's been an ongoing series for quite some time. I've tried it in different mediums, and simply by placing pigments on the canvas, try to express some things that I have experienced in life, like battlefield, civil war, and I wanted color just to communicate that. And you can see like a lot of them, and I'm gonna just scroll through these, and you can feel free to stop me later on to go back to whichever you feel that you want me to. And also, in a way, I wanted in this series to kind of like connect to nature, how what nature does, with these colors. And then I have also been focusing on something called Fragmentalized, which is also another series that is, I would say, like a part of uh, luscious, but it's like it has like different textures. It's more about the struggle of identity, being a Palestinian, refugee of Lebanon, born to both Palestinian parents, and then and living, in a war zone for my childhood, since 1977 till 1991, I believe Lebanon was on civil war. So my childhood wasn't as safe as it should be, but it was very fun because of my parents. And I was very fortunate to have them, but kind of like that struggle of identity, being in a country that's not your country, not being able to travel around, kind of like feeling like a derivative. It took a long time as an artist to kind of understand what's going on. And I have to say, I have to give a lot of credit for Edward Said's book, Orientalism. When I read it, I kind of like started understanding that we are the citizens of the world, and we actually have that talent of being able to um, adapt to the environment and make it home, even when we are away from home. So fragmentalized is like it's all about that agitation, that feeling uncomfortable. Like, am I home? Am I not home? Is this my country, my country? And then I came to that realization that the whole world is my country. The whole world is my place. If I choose to make it my country, then it is. Every issue in the world is concerning me as an artist or as a person. And here I want to stop at Harborage and fleeing. And these basically were about the um uh, Syrian families that were fleeing at some point into the sea. And that's when we started seeing these unpleasant, scenes on the news, where people were actually drowning in the sea because they were in unsafe boats and unsafe circumstances. And we start reflecting on our lives when we are, whether we are immigrating or expatriating, that how lucky we are. We have, a safe place. We have a roof on top of our head. Whereas, this kind of like hardship, some people are actually still under going through. And this is where, these pieces were kind of like born. And, back to like the fun stuff, not just like about like, being, like the struggle of like the personality, but I'm in love with the sea. So the between the sky and the seas is another series that I've been working on, and it's really inspired by that positive energy that the sea kind of gives us, that serenity. That uh, huh? Sorry, oh, I can hear someone, but I don't know if they are. So in this series, I created Beirut, which was about some unpleasant events that happened. So you can see it's about the sea and the sky. Inky 1, 2, and 3, and it's all about traveling and what we see on the airplane, solitude, and many others. Aspiration, and again, trying to see how the sea is like. If the sea had to speak in these like series, I wanted to also kind of use color, because we're like dumping into the sea also a lot of like chemicals sometimes, that are good and bad for the sea world and the ecosystem. Like I also added color to that sea. Serenity, another work that I very dear to me and to my daughter, that she doesn't want me to sell because she claims it. Blue, this one is for my husband. and in many miscellaneous work. I'm gonna just scroll really quickly again with all of my experiments with color and different themes to move forward to geometric works that I have done, and these were basically based on or inspired by Edward Said quotation, "No one today is purely one thing," and it's about being confined as humans, with social rules, social norms, and a lot of, sorry, I'm just gonna go back. A lot of like these like different rules that we have, and on that, I wanted to kind of like test again color and shapes, and I've created this. Series where I have a barricade, which is one of my favorite artwork that basically I tried to use some sort of organic forms. Confined number 11 and number 636, they are one of my favorite ones because they were kind of like responding to some sort of rules and laws that were written by that number, and I basically wanted to kind of like illustrate them and try to kind of work with color to express what they meant to me personally. And then it goes on to more of these like experiments of like color and kind of expressing all of these different laws and bylaws that exist out in the world, and kind of try to use their subject as, and my paintings were kind of like the response for that subject, with keeping the core of that law as a hidden kind of a mysterious um, subject. I didn't want to declare it to the viewer because I wanted them also to kind of like connect with the painting in their own way and try to um, reinterpret it in their own way. What does the word confined mean to them, and what does number 42 means to them as well? So this series, I think there's one slide that's kind of um, kind of, hold on one second. I am just gonna scroll a little bit. I feel like there's something that kind of like slipped. Just want to reorder it really quickly. Yeah, it's this guy. Sorry, and I go back to presenting. Yeah, sorry about that. So this brings me to my 2022 series, which is Je suis là, or I am here, where I was diagnosed with the stage 4 cancer. I kind of like suddenly found out that after cracking my spine accidentally, after like right after COVID, or when things were getting back to normal, and going back to the university and like being with my students, I found out by accident, and I was very lucky that I have lymphoma. And uh, basically, I was kind of lucky in a way that I cracked my spine because cancer didn't travel to my organs, and basically it was curable, and I was able to kind of like reset my own destiny, I would say. So I had that kind of like reconfinement again after COVID, to be isolated from people, and I was home or in my studio alone most of the time. I had two walks in my day, very early in the morning, before I start, giving my classes online, which I was very grateful for the management at Zayed University and the college, where they allowed me to continue, with my normal day-to-day practice, and also in the evening where I would just like have another walk as well. Thanks to my dog that's joining me here in the studio to basically just like seeing things in different uh, way, and it affected drastically my color palette, where all my paintings turned into white, green, and black. And I will talk about that in a bit. So, Venomous was one of the first paintings I did. And I sketched it first in, I think I was in the therapy during doing the therapy in the room at the hospital, and then I went home and I started working with it. And in a way, art was for me some sort of like a healing, like comforting, because it kept my mind in a positive state. I felt that even though I'm kind of isolated, but I'm not really isolated. It kept my company, and it kept me also um, in hope that it's going to be okay. And luckily, after the third session of my chemotherapy, when I had to do, like, this is too much information, but when I had to do my PET scan again, um, there was no cancer. So I don't know what happened. If it was art, it was God's will. If it was, all the prayers from all the loved ones, but just kind of like kept me going. And this is where, this painting was completed, in addition to other paintings. And I kind of like feel that, art is sometimes maybe could be something that can keep our mind power in the right spot and kind of help us to overcome and difficulties. And maybe that's why lashes helped me to like come back to art, back in 2012, and then maybe was another kind of call. And then I did like multiple works, and some of them was exhibited at a gallery here in Abu Dhabi and also in Manarat Saadiyat. And also with that series, I kind of like reset, like just like what happened in 2012. It was a reminder for me, that incident, that I should, as a human, and every human should do what they really love, what they really care for. And I realized that, I've been, busy doing everything, but I really need to go back to my roots, to what I really care about, and kind of try to think about that, heritage, what kind of like richness it gives me, to my practice. And that's when Akub was born. And Akub is a thorny plant, and it's basically a plant that gets foraged in the Rocky Mountains, or between the rocks, and it's like sea urchins. It's very thorny. We open it, we take the inside, and then we eat it. So I decided to reinterpret it myself and kind of like recreate it. But what that did is kind of like made me also think of my research, and of what I want to do as in my practice. I really love all of my series, but I really need to kind of like also allow or allocate time for preserving heritage, my roots, and embrace them. So Akub had like many Akubs, and I kind of like enjoy, kind of like having that expression, and kind of like put that like resistance or resilience of the human being, of living every day and claiming that they are here. And that bring me, I think this is the final series that I've done in the past 25 years is Tarabin, or amalgamation. And this has been basically sparked by the UAE's, kind of living in the UAE and kind of like learning how, working as an amalgam, as a nation, coming from different backgrounds and coming from different religions, different ethnicities, that we are all at one. We are all one community that should work together as an amalgam, as one to kind of like move forward. And the birth of this first painting, which is right now at the gallery in Under the Sky, was basically sparked with the fact that the UAE passport was the first in the EU to be recognized without having a previous visa to enter any EU country. And to me, as an Arab and as a resident of UAE and living in Abu Dhabi, I was so proud, even though I don't carry the passport, but I felt that this is how it should be, as a response that we should be all working together to, as a community to kind of move forward and be working as one. And for that, I wanted to kind of like use a different interpretation of the turbans, of how the characters in the are lined up as an horizon, as if they are an army of that's kind of like standing there, or they are as a field of flowers where they are. Very soft, very fragile, but then at the same time, when you are close, the stems have spikes that could actually kind of like remind you that, we are here, we are soft, but we can always defend ourselves. And that series kept, ongoing and creating, multiple artworks. And I will show you later the last one that I did during the incident that we lived, during Ramadan when the war happened. Experimentation is not something that I would stop. It's something that I love. It's part of my research. It's part of who I am. And I was very lucky to kind of work with Dr. Ahmed Al-Attar and with Dubai Culture and be one of the grantees of the grant that Dr. Ahmed received from Dubai Culture, where he had to train artists, visual artists, to be tech artists. And that's when I kind of learned more, or dived more into tech, and kind of reminded myself of what I have experienced during my work in the US. And that's when I have created this kinetic installation. It's called Frogs in the Pond. And I have a small video that I'm gonna see if I can share. Do you see the video or no?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we can.
so I'm gonna play it. So in that experience that was 2 years ago, 2024 to 25. This piece was disseminated in two exhibitions, one in Sika 2025, and the other one was in Mariah Art Center also last year in November. And basically, I wanted to kind of dive into the to preserving heritage into tech, and kind of like engaging the audience with the cross-stitch tatrees of that Palestinian um, um, craft that women used to have on their garments, on their clothes, and kind of work with um, kind of that more, as a decorative material to be more of an interactive experience for the audience. So the pebbles kept kind of like moving and swishing, and I wanted the audience to have that kind of experience. And I called it Frogs in the Pond because it basically has that motif, which is called Frogs in the Pond, and it's one of the lucky motifs. In this installation, I tried to work with that endless kind of like repetition and reinterpretation of the human experience. And it just happened that it was also with uh, the timing of that piece was kind of like working also with all of the incidents that were happening internationally. Along with my research, I worked also with a series called Stitched Impressions, Preserving Palestinian Cross-Stitch Heritage. And I wanted to kind of experiment with the traditional craft with artwork. And this is when I created a series of paintings. And basically, I tried to use mapping of some of the motifs to the areas that they are coming from. And this is an ongoing series that I really enjoyed working with. And I felt it was a good link between the geometric series, the old series, and the impressionistic and the cross stitch. And it kind of like bridged, and it was like a kind of like a mix of all. And I have created these series. And it all started with this one that I personally stitched. It's called Threads of Hope, and it is fully dedicated to the children who all what they want is to fly a kite and have a normal life. I have to also thank for the previous pieces, the ladies from In'ash. It's an NGO in Lebanon who helped me kind of like translate my electronic files into stitches. That I kind of like collaborated with them, and it was really an interesting experience for me and very enriching. My latest work, you probably see it in Under the Sky, is this piece, The Broken Binary, where you can see cross stitch is now transferred from being on just a cloth to being on metal mesh. And I wanted to kind of emphasize on how we see ourselves in the mirror. And the mirror was actually adopted from a warehouse in Musaffah, where one of the gallerists in Rizq took me to Musaffah, and I drove Malvika nuts, going around and around and around. And then I acquired these two organic painting mirrors, and then I decided to kind of build on that mirror, because to me the mirror is it's our own reflection, right? It holds our smiles and our cries. It holds also all our stories. The mirror is seeing us, and without telling us, what it's seeing or what it is interpreting. And in that, I wanted to kind of like emphasize on the human being, how we are born as a whole. We are innocent, we are sponge-like, kind of like very malleable, very flexible, very adaptable. And then somehow, we get to kind of like get our binary or our code kind of like twisted, bended, and kind of like changed. And I wanted to kind of emphasize and capitalize on that. And this is like was what is one of another piece that I'm working on as well, that involves a similar shaped mirror, that and kind of like similar kind of composition, but very different at the same time. And I wanted to kind of like experiment with cross stitching and different materiality and experiment, and also have the viewer kind of like interact and be one of, the one with the mirror, and kind of like experience themselves kind of like emerging with the installation and being like one with it. They are part of that. Another piece that I worked on this year was also one of the Tarabim pieces that I mentioned earlier, which is Yunson, and it's like basically, trying to be like as one again, as an amalgam, and it was again a response to what's happening, during, I think mid-February or March, until April. And that's when this piece was kind of like in the process and in the making. Another piece that I worked on, after my May 2025, my solo at Rizet, was this artwork, and it goes also to Luscious, where I experimented with color, and it's still untitled. I don't know what to call it yet. And also this lavender field, which is also like a landscape. And this one was a kind of like a work with like a composition that I wanted to kind of like combine things and experiment. I kind of like wanted to work with a limited color palette and see how, kind of like landscapes can be transformed, and how color can just kind of like take our mind off to something else, something more positive. I worked also on another electronic piece, which is called Pasha Stand. It's an orange piece, and it's very similar to the green one that I worked with, and that's it. So I hope I did not bore you with all of my different, work that I have shared with you today, but that's what I have done in the past, I think I would say 20 to 25 years, and I hope you liked it. I'm happy to hear your feedback, your questions. Let me know.
Thank you so much, Tala. Thank you for sharing your artistic journey, but as well getting to know more about who you are personally and as an artist. We're open for questions. If anyone has any, you can drop on the chat as well, and we can answer them.
Hi, Tala. Good afternoon. Can I say something?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a pleasure to see all your work coming together, and the way that you have been dwelling with home and away from home and displacement as well. Thank you for the amazing presentation. Really, really enjoyed it. I would like to ask you something that is really fascinating. Home is a place that we feel that secure, and we feel that safe, right? And what I find fascinating is that when your first work was very sharp, the edges of the work when you were talking about home, but in opposition to that, the colors were very, very bright. Then you suddenly, with your health issue, you really transformed and it became more organic. I have a question regarding the experimentations that you talk about, because as artists, we are constantly experimenting, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that I wanted you to explain or to say something about those experimentations, because they are actually your work. That is actually part of your journey. They are actually started to become, that sharpness that you had in the beginning started to be so organic and at the same time controlled. Can you tell me a little bit more about about that, because the experimentations are alive.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you, Louisa, for the question. So I think the reason I don't know how maybe if that's a justifiable answer, but I think part of it as we grow, we realize, I think, as a humans that we should not be like trying to control everything, and maybe that like controlling the edges or being like too like geometric or specific or kind of like, it's like a way of confinement, and maybe that's where like that, geometric piece was or pieces, because I felt I was kind of like trapped, like as a maybe I think like growing up like in your like late 20s and 30s, you feel, especially as an artist, that it was a bit of a hard journey, like because like I grew up in an area that is, even though it is my home, like, but it's not really home. Like your artwork wasn't really kind of like welcomed, kind of like, or I didn't have the wasta or the kind of like the who's who to kind of like figure out my way to kind of like, work just in art. So then my expression in art was kind of like maybe, kind of feeling that like I'm kind of like confined. I'm like being in that spot, and I really kind of like I don't know what to do like with myself, with my work, and I kind of like wanted to express it out instead of keeping it like inside me. So I put it and let it out on that canvas. But at the same time, my colors were not dark, like they were kind of like bright and cheerful, because and you probably know me, like as a person in the midst of all of the troubles, like I love to smile. I as a person, I prefer to smile. I prefer to be like kind of like cheerful. Like bright colors kind of like represent me as a person. Like even in my cross stitch, like late piece, many people ask me, why is it not like red and black? I'm like, no, like I like colors, like colors do express us as humans. It's a language. It's a language on its own. It's a code, and they are really important. The shift to kind of like being more expressive, more organic, I came to the realization that if people want to like my work, they can like it. I'm happy. They are happy. That's fine. If they don't like it, I am happy for them. They are entitled not to like it. They don't have to like it. I don't have to force it on them, but I came to that kind of like friendship with my own soul, with my own practice, that I don't need to confine myself anymore. I don't need to kind of, keep myself into these like kind of like edges. I don't need to make sure that my lines in my tarabin, to be like perfectly straight and kind of like masked and kind of like, cleaning up the edges. It's okay if they are organic, and they have their own, expression. They are still gonna look like lines. They are still gonna look like brush strokes. And that's felt like a lot of like freedom for me, and a lot of like expression, and a lot of like relief. And in another way, like I'm still kind of like using a bit of structure, because like with the cross stitch, there's a lot of structure and a lot of like, using those like lines, but in a different way. But I also try to use them I also try to create or combine or assemble patterns or motifs in a different way to create a different pattern than what it is actually um, commonly used. So I tried not to use the common compositions that we are seeing everywhere. So, and that's, I think, what's different about my cross stitch versus the ones that we see in the market or any artist practice. I try to kind of like make my own mix or my own, as they say in French, mélange. I steer my own thing. I pick my own patterns that mean something to me, that I resonate with, and then I try to, readapt them to my composition. I don't know if that answers the question.
It does. And also, one more thing, just to finish, sorry. Also, the mirror, you are inviting now the people to get into your artwork as well. I think that is something that you add into your pieces. And now it feels that we are also part of your artwork as well, which is expanding that dimension of the constraints that we encounter in the beginning of your artwork. Fascinating. Thank you so much, Tala.
Thank you. Yeah, and I just have to add one thing for the mirror piece. I have to say it was very intuitive. Like I did not think that I would be using a mirror. When I initially was called to go to that, warehouses with Malvika. I thought I will get a chair, I will get a stool, maybe a headboard, something, that's been left behind from someone, and then kind of like try to create something. But when I saw the mirror, I don't know, it was very intuitive. I really had zero clue what I will do. But I knew that I just wanted the mirror. I didn't want the chair. I didn't want the headboard. I wanted the mirror. And then I think I remember Malvika's reaction was like, interesting. She told me like in the car, interesting. I want to see what you're gonna do. And my husband looked at me when I got home with the mirrors. It was like, mirrors? What are you going to do with the mirrors? Like you cannot paint on them. I said, I'm not gonna paint. You'll see. And then like everybody at home, like whoever was visiting my studio during that time, were just like, it was like really something in my head, and I don't know how to explain it. Some craziness, I don't know.
We can take one more question if anyone has. Okay. Well, I have. So you mentioned earlier that you like to experiment with different themes and different like approaches. So at this point in your practice, what kind of ideas or directions feel more exciting for you to explore next? Looking into your journey, into your artistic journey.
So right now, I'm still like one thing that really fascinates me, or I really want to focus on, is preserving cultural heritage. So basically, I think I'm more interested to see how I can bring more cultural material into visual arts in a way that the audience is not expecting to see. So I don't know how I will do it, but I'm experimenting, like just like with the mirrors and with the installation, and I will be probably like I'm in the process of doing more like cross stitch and acrylic combination, or oils, like kind of like combination on artwork on one side. So that's something that's, I think, ongoing. But knowing myself or my personality at work, and I think this is something that people kind of like feel puzzled at, that I don't know if it is ADHD or some sort of personality work issues, but not, person to person issues, is that I always try to keep myself entertained at work. And basically, that's where I feel like I need my artistic practice to be split right now into two parts. One that is fully focused on cultural, material culture. Right now it is Tatriz. I'm hoping that later on, with the research that I will be starting at the university with the UAE material culture courses that I will be teaching, that I will learn more about, like, you know, uh, adding, like maybe Sadu or Tellit or more, UAE like crafts into my work as well. So I'm looking forward to kind of like, learning more about also different cultures that I have lived and experienced, and kind of like preserve or try to preserve them in my work. If not for like the community or the audience, at least for myself, my children, and my grandkids. And at the same time, I will not shy myself from also expressing myself whenever I feel like I want to just communicate with just color and canvases, and having that color conversation. And that's why, like, my studio is like split into two parts. I have my paint area and I have my cross stitch area right there. So this is where I'm kind of like doing both, in addition to my desk where I do my like research and stuff like that. So I think that's what's next. And I'm hopeful that, with doing more of what I am doing, the people who are collecting my artwork, or they have collected it, they will understand that being diverse is not actually a weakness, but rather a richness, where a person is somehow, some way, kind of like had that trainings, in their life, where they are able to do multiple things, and they will start appreciating it more. Because I believe, and is that my journey, and with the amount of work that I have done so far, despite of all of the things, that a human could go through, that roller coaster ride that we all live in on day-to-day experience, that it is proving what I do, and that what I do has good quality. And I hope that that quality keeps, kind of like improving more and more, and kind of like that I'm able to prove myself that, in the market, in the art world, and hopefully,
Yeah.
just be able to, be more like appreciated, or my work be more out there, in the world. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Tala.
Thank you.
I think we have come to an end if no one else has questions.
I think
Thank you
Mina
so
has
much.
something.
Oh, Mina.
Hi. Hi, Tala. Thank you so much. It was lovely hearing you. I just had one thing in my head. It was playing like how you're converging your practice. I've known you for more than 2 years now. I've been following your practice. I've shown you twice or three times. And I like this, like how you moved from your paintings, and then you brought in your technology that with which you started working, and then you also brought the trees into it. But I mean, like, it's just an observation, just want to voice it out. There's no question attached to it. So I like the way you're converging, you're bringing, like, more and more artists are bringing different things, and how the trees being a traditional form, you've brought it through technology also, and now you've brought it with your mirror and your work. So it's amazing to see. And like Sarah said, we're excited to see what you're going to do in future also. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
support, Mina, and everybody at Tizze, and everybody at Zayed University, and whoever is involved in my practice, all the people that are here today. And, it's really, I feel blessed that, that, I have that kind of support.
Well, thank you so much, Tala. Thank you also to everyone who joined us, for taking the time to join the talk. And we look forward to having you also join us again for our next upcoming talk with the rest of the artists for Under the Same Sky exhibition. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.